Awesome. I think we are already live. Perfect. So, yeah.
That would be funny
Oh,
to
who is
actually bring
that?
some.
Who is that? Your
Huh?
dog? Your dog?
Sorry?
Was that barking your dog? Or
Oh no, no, my friend was just coughing in
okay.
the.
Sorry. So thank you first of all for making the time. It's awesome that we found the time to talk.
Yeah.
When when we entered, I was just looking at this beautiful video that you have created. So tell me a little bit more about that. How did that come up, and what does it? From
Oh,
where does it? It's a very beautiful thing that you have
thank
created.
you.
Where does it come from?
That video is just a collaboration with my housemate and dear friend, Charlene Jessica Parker. It's her course that she's working on right now, and yeah, I'm living with a few beautiful humans in this house, and we've been creating content around different topics, and that one just was one of these like passion projects that came up that we wanted to bring about. And she just wrote the script in one day, and we filmed it the next day, and then I just made the edit, and there it is.
So how is the situation? You're living. Tell me where you're living, where you are right now, and what we're looking behind. It looks like a studio.
Well, this is yeah. I usually have a backdrop right here, but now it's over there for another shoot. But uh, but yeah, we're staying in close to San Diego County, or in San Diego County, like an hour north of San Diego, and I'm living in the One Nation headquarters house right now, and yeah, it's a
Tell me a
beautiful
little bit more about One Nation.
One Nation. One Nation is a new American political party that we're working on. Let me see if I can show you a little bit because I want to show you more than just the background of this.
Yeah.
Because it's way more beautiful over
Oh,
there.
wow. That looks nicer on the other part.
Like that's what I see and feel when I'm in my office all the time.
Okay, that's better. Way
There's
better.
so many birds and lizards and bunnies and so much life around us.
That's so beautiful.
And it's a beautiful mountain right there, and that takes like 40 minutes to get up the mountain, so it's like a perfect hike to run up. And yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that completely changes the image. It's funny, right?
Yeah. Ta-da! Maybe I should sit like that. I could.
Probably. I think that's a better.
I I guess I could do this a little bit to get a little bit of the feeling.
That's a more realistic image of what you're experiencing right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have to come up with some sort of like outdoor studio or something.
So when did you start? Since when are you there?
At this house, I basically moved here in the middle of January.
Mhm.
After we met in Barcelona, I was in Canada for with Amoriki, who was also in Barcelona. I was in Canada with her for quite a while, like 5 6 weeks,
Mhm.
and then I came back to California mid January, and yeah, I've been here now what 5.5 months.
So right before the whole situation started, right?
Yeah, we were working hard on the political party and a lot of things with that, and we had all these big plans, and then everything happened, and then we shifted everything, and through the next couple of or the few weeks into the quarantine, we were running all sorts of experiments on what's ours to do as a as like what kind of messaging we were meant to be putting out, and what's our next steps, because everything changed. And it's really interesting right now, and actually there's a huge shift happening now where we're expanding. My role is still as a storyteller and a filmmaker. I'm still on the I have other projects that I'm working on too, and I'm not like I don't know if my highest excitement is to move to where they're moving now. They're going to be moving to New Mexico to start a HQ village there, and expand this whole project and movement. So
So the movement has started before. You're just like shaping it differently right now, right?
yeah, it's just growing naturally, just like a startup would. We literally started from this garage. We filmed the launch film for the campaign or the political party, and also Christopher's presidential candidacy speech we filmed here, and now it's time to expand. So there's a new website up for the Azure Village. It's called Azure, and there's a bunch of about 30 different titles to be filled of jobs to be filled um, there. So it's really exciting. It's going to be an
What
exciting
is the
year.
idea behind it? Why a new political party?
I mean, look at this country. Like, I think it's about time.
What is
Yeah,
different? What would be different? What is the different proposal?
it's it's time to stop fighting each other. Yeah, we have a all win look on life and politics, and we've been able to embody that living together in this house for all these months now, and we really have the structures in place to be able to do that at a village scale. Of course, it's going to require a lot of healing and a lot of trauma work, and a lot of things will come up when people come together like that to work on something impactful. Um, but on top of that, it's going to be very powerful, and yeah, I'm excited to see what unfolds. Yeah, but like I mentioned, I can have introduce you to Christopher and Sophia. They're more equipped to speak on the political side of things than I am. I'm just a objective observer and a storyteller with a camera. So I don't want to pretend
Your
that I
part is
know.
actually to create the content, create the image, and create the story behind it, right?
Yeah.
How did you get into that? Like, why stories? What can you transmit? Why do you like the stories, and how do they connect actually with emotions? How do you make them connect? Because I mean, the bigger part of a story is to be able to move something in the other person, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Uh, Now I'm only recently have started realizing specifically on my personal why personally for me it's such a calling and a passion, because I always most of my life I've realized that I have this capacity to feel emotions deeply and really feel other people's emotions deeply, and now I've realized that it's I don't know if, are you familiar with human design?
Mm, I don't know from which aspect.
Well, anyway, there's different types that we we are according to human design, and and I happen to be a reflector, which is less than 1% of the population of the world. And a reflector means that all my chakras, I'm completely open. I have no defined centers in the human design chart, meaning that I literally am what my surroundings are. So I take in everything, and and it's and that's been a really interesting thing to learn about myself as a filmmaker and storyteller, because I love to tell people stories, and now that I realize that, I really want to, like, yeah, just bring out the most powerful and impactful stories that I see in the world in the most emotional and best powerful way. So yeah,
during
that's
this
what's
period,
exciting for me.
during this period, it was very interesting also for myself to realize. how many of the emotional charges were actually coming from me or how many were coming from the field. Because
Hmm.
mostly like the first 3 weeks, if I'm not wrong, of the lockdown, it was a very, I mean, it seemed that every week was kind of completely different, the emotion that was coming out from the collective.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it was very interesting to observe that. How was from your side? Like how has been the ride until now?
Well, yesterday was a good example. I, when I release emotion, and I really do feel like I feel emotions from the field in a really deep way. And yesterday was a really emotional day for the whole planet. I feel like it was yeah. I just I have I have this. I'm able to really notice and feel right away in my body if there's something that needs to be released. And then oftentimes um the best way for me to get into the state of emotional release is through music, or literally watching like emotional performances on YouTube. Like I love to watch like the best America's Got Talent like auditions and things like that are really emotional. And uh and yeah, it just blasts me right open, and I really just hysterically, physically snot sob myself through those emotions, and really know that I'm still that those emotions don't define me, so that I'm not scared of feeling them. And then and then I just really imagine myself turning the volume knob of that emotion to 1,000% until you get to the other side. And I don't know if you've experienced this before, but when you really really truly go through that work of feeling that emotion, it usually turns into another emotion. You might go from sadness or helplessness to grief or anger. And once you flow through those emotions in a safe space and not hurting yourself or others in the process, you will find this space of calmness on the other side. And that's a really really powerful, profound experience every time. So
So I remember that I was realizing at some point, like last year, that I don't even know how to explain that exactly. That we can practically kind of detach from the emotion. So the emotion remains there and you experience it, but you don't withdraw conclusions from that. So, meaning, you can be sad, for example, and really feel the sadness and the grief, but don't define yourself during this
mm.
moment as being sad.
Yeah, yeah, of course not. Yeah, yeah.
What is
Well,
this? What is this like difference between the two? Because I was not really able to, like, I was just experiencing it. I was not really able to understand how it works better.
well, I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at it and explain it. There's the blue sky and the clouds metaphor. There's a lot of ways to really, through meditation and things like that, to tap into realizing that you are not the emotions, and that they and one of the biggest mistakes that we do is that when we have something happen to us that's emotionally difficult, that we don't really take the time to move through and feel those emotions, and then they are literally trapped in our body for a long time. And they can and I do believe that we have, through our DNA and through our heritage, we have trapped emotions in our body from our whole ancestral lineage even. And sometimes, and even especially then, you really have to understand that it's not you, it's not you just need to like trust that just it's safe to feel those emotions. And it sometimes feels really overwhelming. Like even a couple days ago, um, as I was going through a process, and I was being held in a safe space. It was interesting. Christopher, who was holding me in that moment, was um, halfway through. He mentioned just mentioned in about how I was healing more than myself, and how I was healing ancestral trauma in that moment. And for him to, and I knew that, but when he voiced it next to me as I was crying,
Mm-hmm.
I felt this like even deeper, powerful pain right here in my solar plexus and my heart, it was this like, it was so deep and powerful, and I was literally like, I felt like I wanted to throw up something like a big chunk of something from my body, because it was so painful. But I knew that I just I was in a safe space, and I just could just move through it. So um, yeah, those kinds of experiences are really healing.
And what do you usually do to like be able to overcome them or kind of surf them without getting drawn into them?
Uh, I mean, I the for me it is about wanting to make sure that I get drawn into them and make sure that I feel them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the surfing part to me, is that I really like if the wave is the if the wave is a huge scary ten-footer of of shame or guilt, or something that's like something that I've been putting away, then now I'm in a place where I feel safe to surf that emotion, and and me committing to it fully is me catching that wave. I look at it that in that way. I don't the surfing isn't me not trying to feel it, or you know or or trying to pretend that it's not that big of a deal or whatever. It's actually diving deeper into it, into that feeling. And a lot of times when you realize, okay, there's something here, start feeling it, then the wave freaking builds up to be the size of a skyscraper. But if you at that moment decide to really just go into it, and one important powerful way to learn to start doing this, which Amoriki teach me over the holidays, was that you really acknowledge to yourself in that moment that it's good to write it down. And I'm I'm butchering her teachings a little bit, because I don't remember exactly the wording, but and you can have your own version of this. But basically, when you start feeling the emotion, you just you write down what you know are the emotions that you are coming up for you first, and then you get into the exercise and you write down, you voice to yourself as you hold your fingers on your chest here. You say that even though I feel sad, I deeply and completely love and trust myself. And then if that emotion turns into, for me, the first time I did it, it was like 90 minutes of
Oh,
going through all kinds of emotions, like helplessness and shame and guilt and some anger, and every time I moved through an emotion, I found a new one kind of popped up from underneath. And you just restate, okay, even though I feel angry, I deeply and completely love and trust myself. And then on the other side of that is just pure calm bliss. You're exhausted, but you're calm and just like so clear and open. It's so beautiful. So
yeah. After all, it's about like getting into this moment of inner peace, like
yeah,
after the storm.
yeah, and that those emotions will be like, once you open the floodgates. For me, it's been months and months of that now, where like multiple times a week I cry a lot. and it's like I'm so excited to step back out into the world with this new found kind of inner peace and calmness that I know that I have cultivated through this work. So it'll be interesting to see how it is out there, because I've been stuck in this house just crying for months. But at the same time, like that's the thing, like you feel the lowest of the low, that helps you just be in a way bigger state of bliss and happiness on the other side. So I believe that there's like this, we all have this like baseline frequency of emotions that we are in, and then a lot of people are just stuck there and they just feel are not, like they're just here. But then because they are scared of feeling those deep sad emotions down here, you never really reach those high happiness emotions here. And and then another thing that you might think, that if you go down here and feel these dark emotions here, and then you pop up to feel that bliss the next day, that then you might it's that it would be like a 50-50, that you have to, like, in order to feel this you have to feel this all the time. But I believe what I've noticed from my work is that once you go down here and really feel these emotions, then you're able to raise this frequency to your baseline state of bliss, calmness, happiness, inner peace, just goes up and up and up once you've worked through all of this stuff here. So then you're able to stay up here more, and then every time you go down into the shadow and work through those, then you just find this space of just chilling and bliss more often than not. So
Have you managed to understand why this happens? Like what kind of shifts happen once you get deeper into the to I don't know how to categorize them into these types of emotions.
what do you mean? What's the question?
So why do you feel that like these kind of like your baseline shifts somehow, right? Like once you get to work with the most tricky emotions, let's say, feels that every time you get into this to do this work, the next time you're in a different energetic level when you in whatever you do.
Yeah.
I've gotten to understand deeper why this happens.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about this, is that I'm just speaking from my experience in the last few months. So I don't want to like pretend to know certain things that I haven't studied too much. And I'm actually literally just started. I'd like to drop this in here real quick now that I just started, and I know this is something that'll be an important one in everything that I'm talking about right now. But this book,
Emotion code.
yeah, this speaks about everything that I'm talking about right now, in terms of feeling things in your body, trapped in your body from your childhood and from ancestral lineage and everything. So yeah, I mean, when throughout our lives we just have all these trapped emotions in our body that we have never been taught how to handle with, you know. So, and our most authentic state of being is unconditional love, right? So for us to be able to tap into that, we need to clear all this junk that we've gathered along the way. So when we feel that and clear that, it'll more of ourselves, more of the light comes out, more of the love comes out.
It's very interesting during this period to see different people getting into completely different states. So there were people who got completely into denial. There were people who were getting like actually irritated. There were people who were getting blissful for the whole, there were people who were having both sides at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, and the funny part is that it was kind of the opposites from the real life, let's say. So people who were used to be very gathered and very having, as we say, like their senses or very like very uniform behavior in the life before Corona, let's say.
Yeah.
It was mostly the ones that got into a very up and down states of reaction, so completely like uncontrolled. And the opposite happened for a lot of people who used to be very emotional and kind of like feeling that they are not very stable in their in their everyday life. The main times they got into a much more coherent state. What do you think happened there? It was very interesting to observe people during this period for me. It was like, oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe. Yeah. Again, I can only really speak on what's my experience and what I've seen and felt. But but a lot of times, speaking on the latter part of like, okay, people whose lives were a lot of up and down and a lot going on, when they, and that's maybe a little bit of what I could see myself being a part of also in that category. um I My life was always very, or it has always been very spontaneous and very much going with the flow, and suddenly finding myself in Barcelona or Canada or whatever, and crying, laughing, all these things. um but then when you are forced to sit with yourself in this kind of situation, and you
Mhm.
get, and you don't have the ability to follow that flow and highest excitement of travel or meeting people or going to events and all those things, then you find, yeah, you find that calmness, and you realize that, okay, without that FOMO aspect of having to do things in this world, you find, yeah, if you do the work, you find that peace real quickly. And then again, those people who seemingly were living a stable life might have actually been living a stable life of imprisonment in whatever they had created for themselves, which they were not deeply actually satisfied with. And then when that crumbled, then shit hit the fan emotionally, and they're like, what the fuck am I doing? And why am I like, this isn't, So that's how I, in short, would feel that might probably happen with a lot of people, is that because they realized that their stable, happy, happy enough, content enough life isn't actually very like, isn't actually what they deep down desire, isn't actually what deep down brings them the highest joy and purpose. And then when that crumbles and they realize that they were relying on exterior factors for that happy enough, content enough lifestyle, that's when it, the turbulence hits, emotionally.
Totally. But I feel also that the FOMO aspect was quite of an interesting one because it kind of feels that as soon as you tell to your brain that that's all, I mean, you don't have other options, it kind of
Yeah,
relaxes into where it is, you know?
exactly. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I definitely noticed that in the very beginning. That was like, oh, this actually feels kind of cool. Now like not feeling the need to be anywhere. So
Yeah. You
that
can
felt good.
actually just be where you are somehow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It really forces to start working on yourself. Like, I, in complete open honesty, like, I have gone through the ringer. My body is in the worst shape it's ever been. My skin is really bad right now still. I've had like tendencies of over snacking and honestly overuse of cannabis to like calm myself down in this situation of all these emotions and and all these things. But now I feel like I went through a huge portal of like the dark night of my soul, and now I'm finally on the other side, finally creating again, as you saw with my new work, and really diving into what's mine to do and what I'm excited about, and reading more and love love this man and his work. So a lot of things to do with storytelling that I'm excited to start diving into more.
I think we are all in a very similar condition, actually. We all went down into just repeating patterns that we know that we have to let go finally.
Oh yeah,
But it was our first grasp, and it's always the same, right? Like your first grasp is what has been working before. You just
yeah,
see that it's not working anymore.
yeah,
So at
yeah,
some point you're like, okay, yeah, I just really have to let go now. And today I was seeing in a very nice video of Sadhguru that I really like the way he's talking. He's like, you know what? Nobody knows what will happen, but what we can do is actually to make a goal of being 10% fitter, 10% sharper, and 10% more balanced in a month. And
yeah,
this is something that each one of us can do.
yeah.
And I cannot even imagine what will happen in the world if each one of us gets this 10%, which is nothing, right? It's not even a big percentage. It will
But
really be a different world by the time
if
we do that.
yeah, if 10% of the world does improves 10% in themselves, that's
Yeah,
humongous.
absolutely. Because the funny part also with self development is that, for me at least, when it started, it's kind of it's so interesting that you don't want to stop. So
Mm,
it's not that you say, okay, now I've reached my 10% down and now I'm fine.
mm.
I have never found somebody who said that.
Yeah, no, no. That's the thing. Like, it just doesn't stop. So as long as you like, and that's the thing with me too. Like, um, before Barcelona, literally just 2 weeks before we met in Barcelona, um, is when I started a huge like quantum leap in my work and my personal journey, my personal growth, and there was a so many magical synchronicities back to back to back to back for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then it kind of slowed down for a while, obviously because of Corona too, but um but I still feel like that I know there's going to be so much more, and it's just I don't know, but it's gotten to the point where I'm honestly, this is the weird thing about it, is that it's hard for me to relate to my old life at all anymore, and like a lot of like the growth has been so exponential, so fast that it's like I'm really been having this like existential crises too, where I'm like, like, what is my reality anymore? Like, I need to like be able to go out into the world and reflect from people what it is that is real for me, because it's been being stuck inside. I mean, I have beautiful friends in this house, but it's just a small fraction of the people that I used to call my
How was
reality
your
or define my
How was your
reality
old
through.
reality?
Sorry, what?
How was your old reality before the shift?
Um, I should like make like a little montage video. It was very interesting. My 2019 was, it's, I don't know how to explain. It was a movie. I was all over the world, but I was, and all these things like I have a huge, I've had a huge, and I still do. I have a huge problem with finances. I've messed up my money situations multiple times over. I'm still in deep debt with a lot of friends and governments and everything. And now I'm realizing that that's okay, and I'll fix that. But I was able to live this interesting life where I was broke, but through my filmmaking career, I was working and I was sent around the world to work on projects, and in 2019, I just by living in the present moment, in my highest excitement, I got offered to. It was weird. I was in Dubai. I was in Cannes Film Festival in France. I was in at the Royal Ascot in London. The Queen of England just walked right in front of me right there, and then I was like at some supercar rally from Poland to Athens in 7 days, 7 countries, riding in the Ferrari Enzos and Bentley SUVs, and I'm like, what is going on? And then, I, in November, I was at a point where in October, I got evicted from my apartment, first of all, in Venice Beach. I couldn't pay the rent anymore. And then for a month, I was staying on in my friend's loft in Venice, and all these synchronicities kept popping up. But as I was expanding, and and I and this and a lot of music started flowing through me. I started hearing all old songs from my childhood that blasted my heart open and led me to different things. And I need to write all this down because it was such an interesting year. But yeah, eventually I was at a point where one it was a Thursday, and I knew that the next day I didn't have a place to sleep anymore. And I literally knew but I was completely in peace, a little bit of tension, but I knew that I would be okay even if I were to go sleep on the beach in Venice. Because I was this like, and this is not, I'm not proud of this, but I used to call myself the village idiot in Venice Beach, where like I just, I was friends with the top restaurant owners. I was friends with the homeless. I was friends with all walks of life in Venice, so I could just walk around and have the best day of my life just by walking out the door and seeing what spontaneously would happen that day. And that's how I lived. It wasn't very lucrative, but but it was a fun way to flow through life. And it led me to this awakening eventually, and where I am now. Yeah, really letting life flow through me now and seeing what's mine to do next. So
Yeah, these phases are super interesting that you just let go and allow the universe to take
oh,
the
it was the next level of surrender. I was like, okay, I can go live on the beach if I need to. But then that day, I got a call for a job offer for the next day. That that suddenly for the next like the day before, I was ready to go live on the beach. I got offered to go to this 4-day event in a beautiful, huge mansion where I had the best vegan food I've ever tasted in my life for 4 days straight as I'm going through these hugely transformative experiences with beautiful humans. And on the other side of that, my life had completely changed. Since then, I haven't spent more than 2-3 days in Venice because it was such a huge expansion that I had to, like, there was no point or no way that I would go back to Venice into my old life and try to integrate all that there. So first thing I came to this house, and I spent time in Barcelona with all you guys, and just like I've been held in a safe, beautiful container by life since then, and I know there's something big for me to do next, but I'm just listening and doing what's mine to do every day next, and we'll see.
yeah, these phases are really interesting. I was just thinking yesterday that they got yeah, I
Check it out.
remember that. So for whoever who doesn't know, this is what we're referring to in Barcelona last November, right? Yeah, it was November.
Yeah,
The
and
holistic visions uh, conference,
symposium, symposium.
is a
Yeah,
better word. And it was a beautiful collection of amazing people.
yeah,
I don't know how else to describe it. I think that's the best description.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Lucille
mean,
Lucille Foundation knows how to bring a good crowd together to work on beautiful things in the world.
I was thinking about that, and I was thinking that one of their best reasons is because what they're doing is very pure. So it's like really the intention is really, really pure. And it's
Yeah.
difficult to find pure intentioned conferences or symposiums anymore. And I think that's why it's drawing so interesting people around.
Yeah, and it's also because I know that the founders are a group of beautiful humans who also have done a lot of personal work together as a team to be able to hold space for a bigger collective like that. I think it's kind of what's happening here too right now is that for the last 6 months we've been crying and not sobbing and screaming and just growing together in this house. And now through this startup phase of emotional releases and growth, we're now ready to hold a bigger container for a bigger HQ of more people to really expand what we're about to do. So
I think it has a lot to do to the like with the inner work first in the team, and yeah, and I mean the way, as far as I know, also the way that Lucille was started, it was purely by guidance. So it was not
yeah.
something rational. It was not something planned or that would make sense
Mm-hmm.
in the normal world. And but I feel that the more we start moving into a world that becomes more intuitive and more guided by natural laws, the more we
Yeah.
will see these things start coming up.
Yeah.
And I consider what we are starting also to be under this category because it's not very rational. Like we have 1 month to go, you know, like the whole thing was set practically another month and a half back. It was just very clearly guided. And to tell you the truth, it was kind of funny because there was a guidance that there will be a window that everybody can fly in, the ones who need to be there. And 2 days ago, and our starting day is on the 16th of June, right? And two
Can you
days ago,
can you explain a little bit more about that? About
yeah,
what you're talking about?
about the whole project or about the guidance.
The project, because yeah.
So after Davos, the block base, I think you're aware, right? Have we talked about
Uh,
that?
well, I wasn't there. I was trying to come. Now I'm like it would have been so beautiful to be able to make it there. I was this close because there's a lot of, I mean, everybody was there. All my new friends were there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no, it was another counter of interesting people.
yeah,
And
I bet.
after that, what came up was that what came very strong from my side actually was the reconnection of the aspect of buildings, of physical locations.
Mm,
Because I'm an architect by profession, but I have just like kind of pushed back this part of me to work more with the humans, like
mm,
mindfulness, with reprogramming, with biofeedback, and all this part. And I realized that there's a very strong relation between the two, and also one can actually help the other to grow. So we need the physical space to feel
yeah,
grounded. We need the
yeah,
physical space to gather. We need the
yeah.
physical space to relate. So I
Hmm.
have never seen that before for some reason. It just became very strong during Davos. So I was realizing that for this type of individuals that I think you are a part of, and I feel that myself is part of, that we like to consider ourselves like global citizens, but we have been more like global refugees than global citizens until now. It's not that we are having a home everywhere, we don't have a home anywhere. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So I was realizing that this part of the people who are very interesting individuals in general, and they have a lot to give, but there is one part missing, and it's the part of the grounding. It's
Mm.
the part of feeling home
Oh
somewhere.
yeah, oh yeah. You're about to make me cry just by saying that.
I know. And the thing is that if you see, like, if you go by the Maslow pyramid, you realize that if you're missing the base, you will never get to your higher extents, even if you try and try and try, because you need to root in order to
Yeah,
be able to
yeah,
reach the heights, right?
yeah.
So I was realizing that this part of this new tribe that is forming, it needs a new home, but we will never be happy in one home, in one country, in one continent, because
Mm.
we are deep inside, like we are nomads, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I was realizing that a global village, so like a home with many houses around the world, would
Yeah.
probably be what would be applying somehow.
Oh
But
yeah.
the funny part is that this whole project actually started because, like, kind of the opposite than the normal project. So we didn't go out and search for the locations. The locations start coming to us.
Wow.
We have in the list, and we will see how we're gonna work with them. The chateau in France we're opening, a private
Yeah.
island in Sweden, a boutique hotel in Sri Lanka, and another private island in Croatia. And I'm like, okay, I think we need to do something with, you know.
Wow. That's
And even
amazing.
the funny part is that there was a shift that happened in the owners. Until now, there were two categories of people: the people who understand that we need change, but usually they don't have the resources for this change to happen,
Yeah.
and the people who hold the resources that are absolutely fine with the status quo. So they don't want to change anything. They're completely
Yeah.
fine with their businesses. It's all good, right? The funny part is that this category have started changing, and there are
Yeah.
owners that they understand that they don't want to use their locations for the normal use. They want to use it for more conscious use.
Yeah.
So they're open to
Beautiful.
go into models for cost only, in order to host this awakening of humanity, which is amazing, right? Like, it's never
Wow.
happened before.
Wow. 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 Wow.
Yeah. So, but the problem of them is that they have the location, they don't have the people. And I'm like, we have the people, don't worry. It's all good. We have you
Don't
covered.
worry. Yeah, we just invite everybody from this event or
Exactly.
whatever.
We're done. So that's how it started happening. That's how it started coming up. And to tell you the truth, I just
Wow.
felt like a duty that if this thing is coming to me, we need to make out something out of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's how it started. And then we're like, okay, which is the best time? And just for a very funny and personal reason, my personal journey started very strong, like 2 years ago, on my birthday, when I announced a personal experiment on human well-being. So
Mm.
I announced it like on the 16th of June, which is my birthday. And then I'm like, okay, let's put the 16th of June. Like, why not, right? And we put that. And then looking at the date, we're like, no, the 21st is the better day because like summer solstice, and it really resonates with creating a life celebration.
Yeah.
So these are our dates for now. 16 from the 21, everybody's is moving in. 21, we open the container with a ceremony that will be on the spot, and also we're inviting elders from around the world to do their own
Wow.
ceremonies from where they are. And on the 22nd, we're inviting all the new initiatives. So everybody who's creating this new world to actually tap into the vibration that the elders have created and plant
Hmm.
their seed for a new earth, for whatever is coming up. So, and then we start, and then it's like 3 months of trial period, let's say. So for the 3 months, we have the commitment from everybody to be there for the 3 months to really set a very strong base
Hmm.
of the first group that will work on the permaculture garden to create the prototype of how we're going to use these um, kind of smaller and localized food chains, and how we
Yeah.
can understand food further. So our theme for this first location is sacred food. So how starting from the seed to the plate and in all the in between steps,
Wow.
how does
Yeah.
it work actually if you start also infusing human energy into food, so
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
just cultivating, but actually really start restructuring it with the human factor.
Mm.
And what would that mean? So it's kind of a research. It will be kind of a research, and we are really looking how to structure it in a proper research this direction with some friends who are going to be joining. And So the 3 months are for that, is structuring our own project, allowing it to emerge as a business, as a new type of business model of co-living. And what does that mean in the new era? How does that resonate with the group, and what is our offer? And then everything that will come up from the garden, and then everything that can create the connection between the humans, the land, the food, and what does it mean practically. And the vision is the first location to continue running long term. So we are ideally going even for a purchase of the first location till the end of the year, and really creating a very stable and strong first base. And it has come also by very interesting download during the Earth Day on the 22nd of April, that our operation system, let's say somehow, are the 5 elements. So the very first location will be about the earth element. The second, it will be about metal, and the metal will have to do with the global village. So probably there we will get down more into what is this tribe needs to actually be able to grow more.
Yeah.
And the third one is about water, and how do we exchange the 4 types of capitals that exist in this world. We're getting collaboration with some very interesting initiatives like the seeds, it's actually called seeds and things like that. And then the fourth would be about wood. So that's like deep soul detoxing. So how do we get down to really clean up everything that is remaining? And the fifth is about free flow business. So different types of businesses, new ways of doing business, more purpose-driven business, more free flow business, more, everything that will create life force instead of trying to steal life force from the others.
Yeah.
And how all of that create a circle, and each one is generating, it's activating the next one.
And those are all their own physical locations around the world, different villages?
Yeah, exactly. So each location, by where it is and by the people who are getting more involved or the ones who are living long term, will automatically have its own flavor.
Yeah.
So all of them have the same agreements, but each one for where it, naturally is a little bit different, right? So it's not the same to have a permaculture gem in France. It's not the same to have an activation location in Sweden. Just by the climate, just by the surroundings, is a completely different thing, right?
Yeah.
And it will attract automatically different people, or will attract you in different phases of life. So I was realizing from my journey that depending on your phase of growth, you need different surroundings, as you were saying, like, because we become our surroundings, right?
Yeah.
So for the healing part also, it's very important to be able to tap into different resources to be able to grow this part of you.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's the idea. Yeah. And now the call is to actually find the right 40 people to be there. The good part is that this project has so many checkpoints without them being checkpoints, but they end up being like checkpoints. That's everybody who resonates a lot or doesn't. Yeah. So you don't have this like convincing part, which I really don't like. It's either that I have calls and people actually explain to me the project instead of me going to go and explain to them, or they say that right now it doesn't fit, but might fit for the future. So there's no real convincing, which I love it. It really means that it's clear and it's understandable and it's how it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And I feel that it's also a very good way of creating a bigger ecosystem of all the people who are doing something similar. So we can actually start connecting, as you were saying, like instead of competing, finally start connecting.
Yeah, definitely. So here's a couple of things that have been coming up while I've been listening and hearing this. Some interesting synchronicities, and like, number one, we're going to be here in this house for exactly 1 more month.
Okay.
This house, One Nation HQ, is moving to New Mexico June 16th.
Okay. Interesting. What
And
does it come to France?
my highest excitement is not to go to the desert.
Uh-huh.
Like I don't feel, like I already mentioned, clearly this container is not healthy for my being.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it is still something that I'm deeply tied and drawn to. I there's from this present moment, I feel like I'm still there's a lot for me to do in this country.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple different elements to why it's difficult for me to be jumping around a lot right now because one, my visa for this country is expiring end of the year,
Mm-hmm.
which is a future fear of mine that I can't leave this country and come back right now if I don't take care of that visa first. Um, but obviously, I deeply resonate with everything you're saying, and it's a huge excitement of mine. Like if I were to ask, if I were asked if I would want to join a village in France in a month, like that's a huge, screaming, exciting yes to me, especially with just the food being just like that would be like the most like calming thing for my nervous system right now to just like concentrate on, just forget all this like all like my life has been like American politics, which is the most
Oh
stressful
my
thing in the
God.
world. The most stressful thing in the world right now is what I'm surrounded by energetically right now,
Wow. Yeah.
basically.
And
And
the one that needs the most healing also, right? Like it's like a deeply oof.
yeah, but I know that there's a lot for me to do here, like because there's a lot that's happening, and I know that it's my what I can bring to the table with a small team here is could change. Uh, Weird to say, but could help change the history of this country. Um, but yeah, I'm I'm really excited about our conversation right now because there's obviously there's going to be collaboration and synchronicities that are going to keep popping up, and as we as these things progress. But just wanted to voice those things, not saying. And here's another thing about reflectors is that and it's hard to explain if you haven't done it. Like only a reflector will ever go through the study of what it actually means to be a reflector fully, because it's such a complex thing to learn about myself or about reflectors. But but yeah, it's I'm never meant to jump into any conclusions, period. Like I need a 30-day or 28-day moon cycle to really contemplate any decision, period. Which is kind of beautiful that it's 30 days until the next decision happens. but um but yeah, this is a really exciting time in the world, and for me personally and for you obviously too. And it's exciting to see what happens.
It is a very interesting time because like everything it's it's stopped, but at the same time it's kind of accelerating.
Mm-hmm.
It's this very
Oh,
weird feeling.
oh yeah.
There are many things that have been blocked for ages and now they just happen. And
Mm-hmm.
there are also other things that they just will be stopped for we don't know how much time.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's the thing. Like we might not. Like I'm part of me still thinks like I need to go back to LA because I want to do these things that I dreamt of as a filmmaker. And now that those things are all these things are happening, I should be telling these things as from the perspective of Hollywood movies or whatever. But like then I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like Hollywood was built on a completely different set of morals and all that. Like I don't really want to be a part of that toxic like thing called Hollywood. So why not like see what's birthing and follow my intuition and my gut and my highest excitement and what I actually want to do, see see what comes from there. But I know that storytelling, filmmaking, content is still mine to do. So now it's just identifying the most exciting stories that I see and witness, and if it's not me personally there with the camera, then making sure that I can help provide the right collaborators to certain areas, like whether or not it's really crazy to say this, but whether or not it's me to like moving to France soon, then I would love to plan and talk with you guys on what it is that you guys are looking for with content and see if I can help with that, because I do know a lot of content creators in Europe, all over in a lot of countries around Europe. So
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Actually, to tell you the truth, I don't. Um, we are right now gathering the material to create the call for the initiation ceremony. So we created a video, but it was not really satisfying
yeah,
on the team. So we're like, okay, we need to make it much more authentic. We need to make it much more ourselves and not so much just informative, but really like soul connection.
yeah,
And if you wish to give us a hand on that, that would be great because we are gathering the material, but we will need somebody who really knows how to put all that together in a way that, you know, that tells the story, right?
yeah, yeah,
It's not only about the material; it's also about the merging.
yeah, yeah.
So if you have time, I mean, it's not a big thing, and it's not something that needs to take a lot of time because it just needs to be our call, let's say,
Mhm.
that's all. And it will be important to have it in order to be able to share it further. But if you feel that you would be able to be part of that, that would be very, very helpful, I feel, because we are still missing somebody. We have people who can edit it, but it's not the same just editing it or having the overview of the editing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's different just to, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see what you guys, what was it that was made that you weren't happy with, and then see how big of a project that is. Yeah, I don't feel like I can commit to anything on this call, but I would love to check out what you guys have, because I have multiple different projects that I'm holding right now but the thing is, like, I want to ASAP find a place where I just cultivate or manifest a team of editors, because I there's just so many stories that need to be told right now in the right way, in the most beautiful, powerful, best best way. So, and yeah, I just
It's an
need
interesting idea, actually.
need
Yeah,
yeah.
to have a way of connecting with content creators somehow.
Hmm.
Yeah, because the stories are very powerful, and right now there are so many stories. Like, I cannot even imagine that if somebody wants to write content about the whole time right now, it's just an infinite
Yeah,
amount of stories.
yeah. That's the thing. Like, how do we keep up with this time? Like, I mean, of course, I know that there's people writing about things that are happening right now, but we need to find a way to put out that bat signal to bring those people together to write something about this time as a bigger piece, or have all that be organized in a way where maybe the new Hollywood is this collective of storytellers that come together to make sure that all these stories are kind of under one big dome of an umbrella that tracks everything, and helps each of those content creators to grow and create that content in a way that gets seen, you know.
That's an interesting idea. Also makes me think how important it's actually to start waving together like this, creating this image, like all of us together, kind of a collective image of what it
Hmm.
means in the future.
Yeah,
And I was, because one of the questions is like in the elders know very well how to hold the ceremony and how to cooperate between them, right? The
Mm-hmm.
question is, do the modern initiatives know how to cooperate between them and actually don't go into competition and just
Mm-hmm.
showing off what they are doing, you know?
Great point. Yeah.
Yep. So one of the interesting parts in these 2 days will be actually how do we infuse this feeling of collaboration or of co-creation of something altogether into the schedule. So it will be a very easy. It's not going to be. I mean, it's a very easy schedule. It's probably going to be like a one call that everybody can has their own time so that they can step in. But the thing is, like, how do you create this connection so that what comes out is not is just a super long Zoom call of people promoting themselves,
Mm-hmm.
but is actually a common initiative, you know what I mean? And this is an interesting idea of actually co-creating an image of the future together. And each one has their own part because that's how it is always. Like even in a garden, each flower is different, but you cannot say that this flower is more important than the other flower.
Yeah. Yeah. I love, yeah, that word garden just somehow should be a part of whatever that brand aesthetic is.
So it has come very strong as then that the elders are create as preparing the soil. So they're really like waving the soil. And then the new initiatives are planting the seeds for this communal garden that is coming up. This has
Yeah.
come like very strong as an image, as an imagery, right? And
Yeah.
the cool part is that as we're gonna be there personally in the chateau, we will also create a proper planting ceremony. So each one of us will actually choose their seeds, and we will do the planting also. So as an action of our
Part of
first
part of
commitment. Huh?
yeah, part of that ceremony of planting those seeds. Have you guys do you know about the practice of keeping the seeds in your mouth for a while before you put them in the ground?
I have heard about that, but can you tell me a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm not like crazy familiar with that. Christopher actually, who just walked behind me, knows a little more about that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we did here. We planted a garden in the back here, and by holding the seeds under your tongue or in your mouth for a while, it fuses your DNA with the seeds, and then when you put them into the ground, really like those seeds then will when you eat those plants, they have literally, you know, taken into consideration your body as they grow.
Interesting.
So it's more like the plant is growing for your well-being, for you to eat when you do that. And if it's, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of what I've understood about it, but I'm sure there's more to it.
Mhm.
And but yeah, it's interesting. I would look into that and incorporate that into the process.
Yeah, somebody else told me about that, and I found it very interesting. And it kind of makes a lot of sense. Of course, you're setting vibration into the seed, right?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
So this is the idea, and the idea is like to see which people are really working towards this new Earth that we're imagining, and how this ecosystem can start being connected,
yeah.
and how this can happen actually through a much more.
This is the big conversation. What
Mhm.
you're opening up right now is the big powerful conversation, and how to do that by bringing how to do that through content and through collaboration. There's a few. There's now that I'm aware of. There's three villages that I'm really close to in the states, on the west side of the states. This HQ that we're starting. Then there's this other one in Oregon that doesn't have a name yet. That one of my friends left here to go there just yesterday. And then there's a third one called Arcadia in Arizona, and they were pretty far already on that one. So I kind of feel like, at least between us, I would love to be like that American brother connection, and then see if we can grow to have one of your one of this places of your project, maybe eventually in the States too, or Mexico or something. But yeah, there's definitely, we should find a way to start weaving these different villages together.
So one of the most important things is exactly what you're saying right now. How do we move into kind of a system that doesn't need to be, for example, you have the connection with these three villages. We don't necessarily, like we have the connection with you. We don't necessarily have to be exact, like it doesn't need to be centralized. It doesn't need to be absorbed by us. It just needs to be like these soul checks and which ones really resonate without them necessarily have to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of create in this, I think this is a system that we don't really know yet how it will work because it has never worked before. It was
Yeah,
kind of like ours is ours and the others are the others, right?
yeah, 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 yeah,
But I feel that this is something that we need to be working, and I feel that this will be a lot like in the global village aspect of what does it mean, and what does it mean if you are not in our locations and knowing you are in a location that are people who just highly resonate,
yeah,
and what is the relations between that.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot for us to learn from the elders about all of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now that you're saying that,
Um,
that would be beautiful. Like, I have to see that, but I think that will come naturally. But it would be beautiful actually to have the guidance of some elders in
oh
the
yeah.
project, you know, because
Yeah,
they can. Mhm,
we should first kind of track and write down each of these new emerging villages that we know about,
mhm,
and see what connections we have to each, and kind of have like a database of, okay, like here's 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 the European villages that we know of, and here's the American ones that we know of, and just kind of build this some sort of centralized communication
mhm.
or something that's that would be powerful. That we could weekly come together for, meditations and things like that. And
Imagine how powerful this can be. Yeah, for sure.
wow,
Yeah.
yeah, to have eventually, like within the next year, have your connections and our connections, and just come together for Tuesday morning prayer. Like,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah. That would be amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
That's like, have you heard of, and this is, have you heard of the concept of the 144,000,
No.
a critical mass of
Ah,
people
yeah.
awakening? Yeah, at this time.
The interesting thing is that the more we raise the vibration, the more the easier it's for other people also
Yeah,
to get awakened.
yeah.
And I feel that from, I mean, for me, the corona isolation needs to remain a little bit longer. Most of it
Oh
was
yeah.
not enough. It was not
Definitely.
enough. We need more. You know?
Yeah. No, I'm watching a lot of my friends and old friends in LA, or friends in general that I just haven't been in touch with in a while. I'm seeing a lot of them, very quickly finding these like Corona buddies first. To, like, they basically just like kind of got into a new relationship just because it was convenient and they didn't have to deal with their own emotions.
Yeah.
And obviously that's not a very healthy place to start a relationship from. Like, once this blows over, and they're back to being free in the world, they're like, oh, why am I with this person? Like, it's like, like anyway, I see that happening a lot, where people are together just for the corona, just to not have to deal with everything that they're supposed to deal with now. So they find this comfort zone, and then a lot of people are already already organizing little parties and getting together in LA a lot, and not not
Thing is
not
that
doing the work.
there was some when we learned. You know how we learned about Corona? It
Oh,
was in our last day in Davos. We had no idea. I mean, we were in a parallel universe there, right? It was a spaceship, this thing. And the last day, we are just having, I don't know, just a chat or something. And the sister of Yanlin actually comes in and she's like, I have some very weird guidance from the elders, from the shamans. I would like to share with you. I'm like, okay. So she sat down, she told us about a virus coming from China, and there will be a second virus coming for China. That will be like really serious. And we all thought that that was something. It was like it was an example. It was a story. It wasn't something real that she was talking
yeah,
about, right?
yeah,
And then after a few days, we start seeing the whole Corona thing, and we're like, oh, okay, so that was actually she meant about the real virus.
yeah,
So the guidance is that probably there will be a second one or there will be a second phase. So that was not clear.
yeah,
And I fear that this is because we haven't learned the lesson yet.
yeah, 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 definitely.
We are very easily like, I mean, I am in the central street here in Athens. Everybody's outside shopping as if
Mm,
the most important thing after the whole period is to go and buy shoes.
yeah, wow.
You know? So some lessons there they haven't been learned yet, somehow.
Yeah, I
Let's see.
think how I see this happening, and this is just an idea and a perspective, but
We lost Joonas. Hopefully he will be back. Oh, you're muted. Okay, I can hear you now.
there.
Lost.
My laptop was at full when we started, so I didn't even think that it would run out of battery. But I guess we've been talking for so long.
We've been talking for some time, yeah.
And I have, by the way, yeah, I have time. I'm not rushing anywhere. As long as we have things to talk about, I'm open to keep chatting.
I mean, we can also like see where it's taking us and then conclude and have it open to see how it goes. Sometimes I like also to put some space between
Yeah,
the,
of course.
like so it's not too much information and kind of settles in both
Yeah,
heads
definitely.
and starts growing
There's
more.
there's a lot of information already for sure.
Yeah. But what do we wanted to say? Complete that before we go.
Yeah, so yeah, right now I feel like there's so the first wave, happened
Mm,
is happening. And if it is true, the prophecies about the second wave that I've also heard about is that yeah, I feel like there's going to be two different ways that people are going to go about it. Like, okay, it eases out, and then a lot of people will get back to life as normal and party and shop and all that. And that time when if the world opens up for a couple months for us now, for you and I and anybody who's at our frequency, really it's the time to get super organized
yeah.
as if like by the end of the year or in the next like whatever month or two of that freedom it'll be taken away again. So just really getting to a point where all these things that we're talking about right now, like organizing whatever is needed, that are in, so that all that is in place, so that once if the world shuts down again and it gets worse, then
Yeah.
we're really really like in a place of like knowing exactly how to operate, you know,
Yeah.
and how to operate and collaborate globally, which is
Yeah,
what we just talked
exactly.
about.
I feel that it's kind of a duty to be able to hold, like, because do you remember when it was your first awakening? The first period, it's dark, and the first period you really need support,
Yeah,
right? So imagine that happening globally.
yeah,
You really need to create a support system,
yeah, yeah,
and it's not
definitely.
going to be the support system we know because it just cannot. Like therapists will not know how to explain what's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It really calls for all of us to like be available,
mhm.
which is partly why I also feel like I want to start a coaching program of my own, with my angle to things, and just like, yeah, get out of my own way of self-criticism of why I should or shouldn't do that, you know, and really just realize that we all need to help walk each other home.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, just a lot of us being open to opening our hearts to let people in and have these conversations, and yeah, just really getting the systems in place so that we're ready for this new earth as soon as possible, you know. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
It's even impressive that this whole thing happened. Like it's still gift, but it's a gift that comes with a price of us being able to kind of stay like stand where life is putting us in a way, right?
yeah, and it's this is so beautiful and liberating to be even able to freely talk in this frequency with someone across the planet, you know,
Yeah.
like, yeah, whoever, and for people to like hear what we're saying and resonate, like that's powerful in itself. So it's exciting.
Thank you so much for your time and your openness.
Thank you.
Uh, let's see
This was
where it
special.
leads. It's really nice.
Yeah, let's see where this goes. There's a lot a lot that can happen. So
There's a lot
what
there.
a time. What a time.
Yeah, definitely we need to start looking of what it means, this global network, like for real now.
Yeah,
It's about
yeah.
time, I think.
Yeah, let's stay in touch, and throughout this month of of preparation of on either sides, and obviously we're allies now, so so let's keep seeing what's ours to do next, and really feeling into that, and if you'd like, I think it would be powerful for people to really hear, what Christopher and Sophia, and Benjamin, who are kind of three
I would
main
love
people
to,
of One Nation.
yeah, I would love to connect with them to see what their vision for sure,
Yeah,
100%. Mm,
yeah, yeah. I think that's part of mine to do too, is to like make sure that their voices get out there more to the
mm,
world. So because
absolutely.
we've all been just working our butts off in this house and not really telling the outside world much about what we're doing, but it's so impactful and powerful what's happening that it's time to start sharing that. So
It's important also to start
yeah,
sharing it because you also get feedback, from people, which is
definitely, exactly.
important.
Yeah, yeah. For myself, I need to keep reflecting outside what's happening. Like I, because I haven't been communicating so much with the outside world, I started feeling like, what is reality? What's happening? so so this was much needed for my healing too. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. I'm very glad to have this talk.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're a very special, beautiful human. Thank you so much for
It's
everything you
exactly the
do.
same. Thank you so much, Jonas. Have a beautiful rest of the day, and let's continue in that vibration to see where it gets because I feel interesting. things coming up, and the
Oh, yeah.
more we connect and the deeper we connect, the better they will become.
Yeah, definitely. Agreed. Awesome. All right. Talk
Bye.
soon. Bye.